All right, so today's workout is going to start with a warm-up of banded overhead squats, some RDLs, and a 90-90 stretch. The overhead squats, I love to have a band. If you don't have a band, you can do this with any type of like a cane, broomstick, anything like that. But what I like about this is it's less restrictive. You can have your arms in a slightly different position from where you start, even from where you end up at the bottom of your squat. And for a lot of people, this is an extremely difficult squat to do. So it just gives you a little bit of range on where you can be with it versus being sort of stuck in the same spot with something like a PVC. But again, whatever works for you, whatever you have around the house or at the gym. So a little tension on this, arms are going to be locked. I care more about keeping the position perfect than I do how far down you go. A lot of my clients will either start to bring their arms forward or start to bend the elbows just to try to get way down here. But that's not what I want. I would rather you be behind the head and only go here. You're still gonna get a lot out of it with that. So you are going to do 10 repetitions of your overhead squat to start the warm-up. Then for your RDLs, I love a kettlebell, but of course, you could also use 2 heavier dumbbells, or if you have one fairly heavy one, like a 35 or up, you could grab just one end of the dumbbell. So again, whatever you have around the house. With an RDL, this is a hip hinge movement, meaning I don't really care what the knees are doing. They can be soft, but this is not a bending the knees movement. That's not gonna happen. This is a hinging at the hips. So you're just shifting the butt back, dropping the kettlebell, dumbbells. If you have none of those, that's fine too. You're going to do 10 of these. Also, again, I do not care how far down you go. I tend to have fairly tight hamstrings, so I'm not going to do a really like bent over, way to the floor style of RDLs because I'm gonna start rounding my back. So I would rather you just stick with what's comfortable for you in that range of motion. When you get a little bit of hamstring tension, then you've done enough anyway. You are going to be at 90 degrees on the front leg, 90 degrees on the back leg. This is one of my favorite positions to do a variety of stretches. I'm gonna have you start shifting back into what I would consider the back hip if I'm facing this way. You're gonna shift down into the hip like you're going to try to push your butt down to the floor. That's gonna get a nice stretch into rotation on this back leg. Then you'll come forward and you'll come down in the front to get the front leg. And then you'll shift back and then down into the front. So a lot of variety. This is just the one that I'm showing you today. I do a lot of variety with some different types of stretches in this position. But for today, forward and back, you're going to do 10 of those. For the healthy body portion of the workout, we're gonna focus on getting some hip and trunk rotation and then some good work in the scapula. So the first one is 90-90 rotations. So building upon what we did earlier, which is why we wanted to get that opened up, you're gonna take a kettlebell or a dumbbell. This is a 10-pounder. I would say, like I had a client this morning that did 18. So you can go fairly heavy. Don't feel like you have to use like a little 3-pound dumbbell. Chances are you'll be able to go a little bit heavier than that. You're going to start over here at the side and rotate it to the opposite side. So basically knee to knee at the very least. If you can get more rotation, then you can do more rotation, meaning I can start back and go hip all the way to hip. So just depending on what your mobility and strength is, hip to hip, or again, just knee to knee. You're going to do 10 of these total, whichever, and you may find that you even get loosened up and get more comfortable and can get more range of motion as you go along, and that's great if you can do that. For the extension work here, or the scap squeezes, you're going to start with your arms straight, and that's going to be probably the most important part of this entire exercise, is keeping the arms locked. So I'm going to start grabbing, like if my palms were facing, that's where I'm going to grab it. You're going to pull it down. Now, this is an exercise that's only going to work this way, obviously, if you have a band. If you don't, I will show you a quick option for some dumbbells, but I would recommend you get yourself some bands because it's going to work way better than doing it with the dumbbells. So arms straight, pulling down. I'm just going to get to the point where I'm hitting my legs, and that's where I'm going to stop for the moment. Now take note of where my shoulders are. This is a kind of a long-term issue for me. Like most of us, we tend to be really pulled forward and tight here. We're about to do the exact opposite. So if we're pulled forward, rotate it up, we're going to pull down, back, and rotate back out of this tight position. So coming here, you are going to squeeze the shoulder blades together and then relax. And then squeeze together. Keeping my elbows locked the whole time. If you start to bend your elbows, this is actually a whole lot easier to do the scap squeeze, but you're not going to get what you need to out of it. So locked, squeeze. If this starts to feel pretty comfortable to you, you can actually pull the band out and back it around a little bit. Then working on the squeezes. This is a pretty thin band that I'm using. You may be able to go up a little bit, but this, along with most of my correctives, this has nothing to do with how strong you are and how much of a resistance band you can use or how big of a kettlebell you can use. The style that I am really focusing on is corrective work right now. And truth is, most of my stuff is corrective work. So I don't care how heavy. If we can do proper technique and everything looks great, go heavy. Right now, this is about technique, focus, and isolation. You're going to do 10 of those. Then you're going to go back through and do another round of the 90-90 position rotations, and then another round of this here. So 2 sets of 10 total of those. If you don't have a band for the banded scap squeezes, you're going to take a dumbbell and you're going to rotate the palms facing forward. And you're going to lift up and then squeeze the shoulder blade. Elbow's going to stay locked. And you're just squeezing the shoulder blade. You will do 10 of these. I'll show you from the front here. And you'll end up getting a little bit of rotation here with this. So 10 on each side if you don't have the band. For the workout today, it's going to be a fairly simple setup where you're just going to do 10 repetitions of everything, and we're just going to do that a few sets. If you're kind of new to this, then I would say probably do maybe 2-3 sets max. If you're someone that's been consistently working out, you can obviously do more like 4 or 5 sets, just depending. And of course, sometimes it's just time management, right? If you don't have a lot of time and you maybe have like 10 or 15 minutes, then put a clock for 10 or 15 minutes and then do as many rounds as you can. Even if you get halfway through a round and your time is up, that's fine. Always make time for exercise. It doesn't have to be as difficult as we tend to make it. There's always time to do just a little bit of something. So first thing is going to be the single leg RDLs. So again, a little bit of corrective work in the mix today. You're going to be standing on one foot. We're taking this dumbbell or kettlebell in the opposite hand. So if I'm standing on my right, it's going to be in my left hand. In an ideal world, you are going to be able to completely balance on this leg. You're going to rotate around, come down just as far as you can, and coming back up. Now, if your balance isn't great, you're going to do something different. You're going to still work on some single leg balance. This foot can be there as a kickstand. This is where a lot of people struggle because they don't love to do single leg balance. Honestly, for some of you, and I had a client this morning that fit this, she struggled to even just get to a single leg. She got over here and she just dropped down because she was so weak through here. I actually just had her simply stand on one foot and she felt that a ton. We didn't have to do any rotation stuff on her right side. Now on her left side, she was stronger and she was able to do the exercise more as prescribed. But there's never an issue with really backing off. I would rather you do it correctly, because what happened, again, she dropped here and she actually would drop forward too. So she was really having trouble like engaging the glutes and keeping herself upright. So I want you to focus on looking straight ahead. That actually helps. When you bring your head down, you'll have a tendency to come forward. So look ahead, get solid, make sure your hips are staying level, and then you're going to work on that rotation. If you can't go very far and this is all you can do, I'm fine with that. Believe me, you're going to feel this plenty. If you can slide the foot back but still not put a lot of weight on it, and that helps you go further down, that's fine too. Any of those variations, just depending on where your level is. You're doing 10, and then of course you're going to switch left leg, dumbbell, kettlebell in the right hand, and same thing over here. Any of those variations, whether it's completely single leg, sliding, smaller movement, or even just a single leg balance is fine on this side as well. 10 on both sides. Tricep press down. Since we got everything warmed up earlier with the triceps, this should be a little easier. You are going to keep the shoulders down here. I don't want you ending up in that position earlier where we were having to come out of that position. I don't want you to do your tricep press downs in this position. I want you to get back in that same position you were in earlier. Everything was down, relaxed, you're good. Then we're gonna do your press downs. For some of you, this may be really hard. I have found a big disconnect with a lot of my clients trying to do this because they go right back to that position. It is really difficult for them to keep everything back and then fully extend the elbows to get a full tricep extension. So if you need to go pretty light, again, this is a fairly small band, but I'm still feeling this. I could go heavier on the resistance, but I'd be right back into this, and I'm probably going short and not fully getting that extension. So just make sure that you're using the right resistance that is going to work for you. Now, if you don't have a band, I have another option. Do a tricep kickback, which again, we want to keep the arm back here a bit and then kicking back. Now, some people will have you come way over, and that's fine too, but for our purposes today, since the original one was standing upright, just a little bit of a hinge will be enough. So you're still squeezing the scapula together, shoulder blades together, and then just straightening out the arm. Fully straight, not letting it roll forward. Again, it'll still be the 10 on each side. Starfish abs is just a good go-to that can be modified for anyone. So you're just gonna be kind of sprawled out here. You can start by simply lifting leg and arm at the same time. And when you do so, make sure that you're not allowing your body to do this little twist. So like when I try to lift my left leg, my right hip will often come off. So pay attention to that, where I'm keeping it nice and tight. I'm lifting the leg and coming up. So this is the easiest version. Lifting the right leg, again, keeping the left hip down as I'm doing so, and coming up. So this one can be slow, that you're thinking through, paying attention to what is happening in the body, so you're not just like, and like flinging everything, trying to isolate some things. If it's too easy to do that, you can, again, still making sure you're lifting the leg and keeping the right hip down, but you can do like a higher, sort of a little lift, or this is, I think, a little harder to try to worry about the hip situation, but you can do, if you just so choose, where you're doing like a full lift up this way, and you're actually gonna stay slightly more engaged, so because of that, you don't have to worry about this whole part as far as coming all the way down. So you're gonna keep a little bit of tightness and reach, kind of keep that tight and reach. Any of those variations, you're doing 10 on each side. Then for deadlift, we're going to use a kettlebell or again, a heavy dumbbell, where you could just grab one end of the dumbbell or two dumbbells. A deadlift, typically you're gonna go pretty heavy. Even some of my older clients in their 70s can do a pretty heavy deadlift with a kettlebell or dumbbells. And honestly, most of them do at least 55 pounds with the barbell. I have one client that I think last year, her max was 180 pounds. So it's never an age thing, it's just where you are in your journey. This is 35. This will be actually about right for most of you, if not too light, because this is just a really solid, strong movement that we can all do. So definitely don't feel scared to go a bit heavy on this, especially if it feels really good. So you're doing 10 deadlifts. I'll show you from the side. You're just keeping it nice and close to the body. And the kettlebell works really well for that. You don't have to worry about like with the barbell coming out around the knees. This just makes it really simple, very functional, so easy for everybody to do. And then the final portion of the workout is some type of cardio. Like my clients here will be using the ski machine, the ski erg, but at home, any type of equipment that you have, treadmill, bike, elliptical, any of that stuff will work. Worst case scenario, you can just run in place for like a minute or so. Anything that gets your heart rate up a little bit is all you need to do at the end of this, just to keep the heart rate going as we're doing some strength work. And then you're gonna come back around, and again, you're gonna repeat, I would say at least 2 sets, up to 5, just depending on where you are in your journey.